welcome to the Heminger Center on the campus of Tiffany University. I'm Russ Snyder, voice of the Dragons, alongside Tiffany University head football coach Gary Goff. And, Coach, it's been a busy spring for you as you guys just completed spring drills and had the spring football game last Saturday. Had a real nice attendance, beautiful weather for it. So spring game is always a good time to kind of let the kids get back on the field and get back to playing football instead of just practicing and banging on each other.
Oh, without a doubt. This was a great spring, probably the best spring since we've all been here. But, we've got a lot of depth at every position finally. We were able to let the guys draft their teams and have two separate teams on offense and defense. And so spring game was a lot of fun. We had everybody's family was there. We had a really good crowd, and we had a nice dinner afterwards with the family members. So what a great day and a great way to end spring.
I think the draft, didn't they take your quarterback and your center away from each other with the first picks? They took Antonio Pipkin, the first pick in the draft, and they said, well, you can't team up there with Mason Butler. We're going to take him number one on the other side.
Yeah, we were there to also make sure it was evenly matched. Sure. But, the kids did a great job because, I think Pitt was the number one pick. Well, the other team took a center away from him immediately. So very smart, and it was funny standing there watching the guys strategize about, he's got him. Well, we've got to make sure we take him so we can block him or cover him.
Let's take a look at spring practice here. We'll take a look at some of the different components of your team. Just give us a brief overview of what they did over the spring and how they're looking. Let's start with the offensive line. We mentioned Mason Butler, the all-GLIAC kid coming back as a sophomore. Talk about the offensive line, what they did in spring drills.
Yeah, I think the offensive line, obviously, we spent, a good 9 weeks in the weight room in the offseason lifting. And with those guys, we worked hard on, adding some strength to them, but also, really slimming them up a little bit. So a couple of those guys, lost a good 20 to 30 pounds, which will make them quicker, lighter on their feet. But offense line, did really, really good. We're losing to Lorenzo Lepe from a year ago. That's the only starter we're losing on that offensive line. And we're too deep now at every single position. We were able last season to redshirt 5 freshman offensive linemen. So those guys really got the first time in the spring, learning the offense and getting in there and competing for a job. And, I think that group's going to be a lot better next year.
Nice luxury to have that you didn't have before to be able to redshirt those freshman offensive linemen.
I tell you what, it seems like it's taken us a decade to get the offensive linemen that we want.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about your skill set. Let's go ahead and put the quarterbacks, the running backs, and the wide receivers all into one group here. Your wide receivers, you lose Marcus Beerham, a highly decorated player, but you got some young kids, you got some returning kids. You got a lot of depth there.
We do. It's another position where we're too deep, and really we could decide to start either one of them at that position. So we're losing Marcus Beerham and Tyler Jones, but in the wideout position, we got Charles Holland, who played a lot as a true freshman. He's a big, strong target for Pip. And then, of course, on the other side, you got Tony Shedd, and those guys are being backed up by, Jeremy Lewis and then Derek Goki. And then inside, of course, we got, Mr. Steady right there, Mr. Utility Man, Pedro Carrera, which had a great spring as well. But then we had Austin Rankin and Jalen Santoro did a great job competing. So those three right there are really interchangeable at both those slot positions. And then, you'll see next year is Dominic Lewis. He'll be a redshirt sophomore tight end for us, and is really starting to develop as a grown man, and he's got great hands, so he's going to be a weapon for Pip as well.
Antonio Pipkin, your returning starting quarterback, will be here for his junior year. What about the kids behind him?
Well, Derek Martin is going to be Pip's backup, who also redshirted last year, and he's going to be a redshirt junior for us. And he's a transfer from Indiana State. He's going to be a really good player as well, a really good compliment to Pip. So, again, really his first practice, going through learning the offense. So you can see, big difference between the two, but Derek's skill set's very high as well. But, really that quarterback position, what a world difference it makes having a 3-year starter. Pip can change the plays at the line of scrimmage, know what we're thinking as coaches, and really kind of avoid any bad play calls that we might have. And, his idol is Peyton Manning, so we work hard on, hey, you got to see this and change the play here.
Absolutely. We thought Derek Martin did a very good job in the spring football game as well.
He's going to be a great player.
All right, how about on the defensive side? I know you moved some guys, some positions have changed, but you bring back a good core in your defensive backfield. You're losing Brandon Person, an all-everything player for this football team, but you do bring back a lot of guys in the secondary. You also bring back a junior-heavy linebacking core. Yeah,
let me back up just real fast back to the offense, because I thought you saw, or I think we all saw this spring, is in the backfield with Jerry Brown, Jordan Nobles, and Chris Watkins. We kind of got a 3-headed monster back there right now, and I think any one of those 3 can be a starter and probably will through the course of the season. Then, of course, you got Patrick Boggs sitting right there getting a lot of reps at the fullback and tailback position. So, again, another position on the offense side of the ball that we got a lot of weapons.
Okay, you mentioned Watkins. That was Matt and I's favorite play of the spring game, and he looked like he was going to get lit up there, and he bounced off that defender and gained another 12 to 15 yards. That was a great play.
Yeah, his low center of gravity, and he's a powerful running back, but also he hides behind those offensive linemen, so it's hard to see him, and he just kind of pops through those holes sometimes. But, yeah, it was a great hit by our safety right there, Derek Calderon, but he just failed to wrap up, and that's when you get hurt.
Okay, how about back to the defensive side of the ball? Let's talk about your secondary and your linebackers.
Yeah, and on the back end, we lost Brandon Person, which was a great player for us. I think he had close to 200 tackles the last 2 seasons for us. So he'll be hard to replace. But, we got some safeties back there that we were able to redshirt last year. And then we got a few guys coming back, and we got a couple transfers there. So, really at this moment, we don't really know who the starter's going to be on that back end. But we had some great competition with, Derek Calderon, Steven Smith, Cody Rollins. We got a different combination we can put back there. So we're very excited about the safety position. And then at corner, we're very deep there as well. Trey Scott, who's been a 2-year starter for us. We got a transfer in Alan Veazey, who's a starter at Miami of Ohio. That's going to be a really good player for us. So, and then behind them, were some young guys battling for the job as well. And we had Carrington Conti that we redshirted last year, had a really good spring. He really led the defense. I think he had 7 takeaways this spring, which is really, really good.
Wow. And then your defensive line, you have moved some guys. They're maybe playing a little bit of linebacker, maybe coming down, putting their hand on the ground this year as well. But also bringing back some guys there. How did they do in the spring?
Defensive line is probably our most improved position. Awesome. We got a couple transfers there as well. With Willie Mays, I think in the spring game, everybody was running over saying, "Who's that guy?" Yeah. He had 3 sacks, an interception, which was a great play, very athletic play, and a forced fumble. So, but he's a long, rangy guy. It's very, very explosive, and he's adding something to that defense line that we hadn't had before, and that's just the pass rush off the edge. And then we were able to take Vinny Jones and slide him inside. Vinny's about 275 pounds right now. He's an explosive player himself, really good with his hands. But I tell you what, our defense staff did a great job with that front. They went out and studied a lot this offseason, and we're able to move some guys around that are going to cause some problems with some offensive line, but at the same time put pressure on the quarterback, and that's the area where we got to get better at.
I thought that the defense played very well in the spring game, looked much improved, and I thought each year, Coach, your team has looked faster and faster and faster. You've always had the big guys. You've had the guys that can play in the trenches, but it looks like you get faster every single year.
Yeah, I think so too. And Coach Eisen does a great job in the weight room with that. But I think our linebacker positions where I saw a big difference in some of our speed. And Mike Covington, Mike Taggart, those guys had a great spring. Jesse Stout had a really good spring. He'll be a senior for us and play linebacker. But one thing us coaches after the spring game, we sat there and we're talking with each other, and all of our recruits there as well, and we'd forgotten how big of a signing class we had. One of our smallest linebackers is 6'3". Wow. And we got 2 defensive ends. They're both 6'5", 280 coming out of high school. So, we're really excited about our signing class, and with the success we're starting to have, the recruiting class gets better and better every year, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do as coaches.
Well, you're working hard to get to September 3rd, a 7 p.m. start at home against Walsh. Coach, what you kids got to do in the offseason, make sure you're prepared when they come into camp come start August.
Well, we can't be complacent on where we're at and what we've accomplished already. Even though we had a great spring, we got to carry that over throughout the summer. We're going to have a large number of guys that are saying they're staying here so they can work out with our strength coach all summer, which will be great for us. But, they got to continue to work hard, and we got to have a great camp and pick up right where we left off this spring. And I think if we do that, we got a chance to have a really, really good season. We got depth. We're very explosive on both sides of the football. I think this spring our defense did a great job of stopping the run, which is where we need to improve. And then red zone on both sides, and then third down, we stress that. So, if we can protect the football, stop the run with our players and skill set we got on both sides of the ball, we should have a great, great season.
Looking forward to it, Coach. You can find more information on Tiffin University football by going to GoTiffenDragons.com, clicking on the football link. You can catch all the Tiffin University football games this fall on our local campus internet radio station and TV station, WTUD. Coach, thank you so much. Have yourself a great summer, and go get them come fall.
Thanks.
All right, he's Coach Gary Goff. I'm Russ Snyder. This has been our look at Tiffin University spring football.